Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Alexis Reichus, and I'm an Associate Product Marketing Manager here at Infosec. I want to dive into the industry challenges and why we created the Skills Navigator in the first place. We all know the stats around the cybersecurity skills gap. Just a couple, Gartner predicts their 2023 study showed that they thought by 2025, a lack of talent or human failure would be responsible for over half the significant cybersecurity incidents. And a recent ISC2 cyber workforce study said that there was over 3.4 million global shortage in these cybersecurity skills gaps. So we've all seen this gap and the effects that it has. We also have found in our research and by talking to our customers that there is confusion over skills that are needed to break into the industry. There are a lot of individuals who don't know what skills they really need to get the job that they're looking for. The path to upskilling plays into that too for the experienced cybersecurity professionals out there, both the individuals and those within organizations. It's not always clear how they're supposed to get from point A to point B with just a job description. And then we get into the territory with the L&D and HR managers out there where there isn't cross expertise with training development. Cyber leaders aren't trained L&D professionals, and vice versa. Cyber leaders might not have the training to make a full plan, a training plan to upskill their team. And the L&D professionals don't know the cybersecurity industry the way that cyber leaders would. So we have all of these challenges combining. And so our industry experts over here at Infosec, especially those on Keytron's team, they've created a solution that can help close this gap and face these challenges. That would be the Skills Navigator. Many of you are individuals looking to either break into the industry or those already in the industry looking to upskill. The Skills Navigator makes training plans super easy to develop, so you're not spending hours scouring the internet looking for potential skill sets from various sites. We utilize our skills platform, AI, and the NIST workforce roles to develop our recommended skills that you need for whatever role you're seeking. Cyber leaders can also use this to train and upskill their employees. This can help them not only build the best team, but also retain talent, because we all know talent retention is also another big area in cybersecurity to focus on. Then finally, like we were talking about earlier, the L&D and HR professionals who aren't cybersecurity professionals, but need to create these training plans for the professionals on their team. Our AI and expert developed platform can be the subject matter expert that they need to develop these plans. Now, with all of this talk, I bet you're all ready to actually dive into the platform and see this demo. I know I am. Keytron and his team have done an excellent job in creating it, so I'm going to pass it over to him. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Alexis. But what I'm going to do here is kind of just walk through what a typical experience is, and some of the things I've observed. I tell people sometimes, I probably spent the most amount of time in skills of anybody, because at one point in time, I spent a lot of time teaching courses, ethical hacking, malware, reverse engineering, and stuff like that. And we use skills as the primary backdrop to teach those classes. So I've got, thousands of hours of time in watching, people learn how to use a tool and learn how it works. And also got to get firsthand knowledge and views of some of the challenges that come along with that. So typical experience is let's take the journey of someone trying to enter into the industry first. We'll start with that. So a person's wanting to get into cybersecurity. The advice that I've given over the years, and the advice that most people give is, well, great, what you should do is start with researching the industry and finding out which part of the industry most suits what you might be interested in. So fair enough, that's a good place to start. That also prompts that beginner to go and do some actual research before they just jump into something haphazardly. So they do that, and let's say they decide they want to be a penetration tester, right? So now they come to our platform or platform like this, and they just type in penetration test. So what do they get back? They get back 545 results. Okay, so now let's think about that. As a beginner, how daunting of a task is it to go through 540 through assets, including video courses, assessments, hands-on labs? How is a beginner going to know which of these 545 things they need to dive into? And more importantly, how do they know which ones they need to dive into first? They don't. So taking a beginner and throwing them into an advanced, really robust learning platform like this with all these assets might seem like a great idea, but it's kind of daunting and they don't really know where to start. So that was our first generation. And we did a lot of hand holding. We would send people communications like, well, maybe take this one first or talk to this person or go learn that. So that was generation one. The next thing we came up with is we said, okay, well, let's make it to where if someone's looking to do a specific role, we give them some base guidance. We give them kind of like a foundation of if you're going to be a pen tester or if you're going to be a SOC analyst, you got to at least know these things, right? So we created our roles. And this is still very good for what we use it for, what it's intended to be used for. So you can come in and let's say you want to be a penetration tester. Now we give you some core learning recommendations like, hey, you need to learn these things as your core. And then to round that out, you need to go and learn these things, these electives here, depending on like which area you decide you want to focus on, right? So we give you some guidance around that. But even with this, we still came up a little short in some things because what happened is someone that's a beginner would come through the same journey, they get into this role, they learn all these things, and let's say that our core is more heavily focused on network security and network pen testing, but they go and apply for a job that focuses more so on web application security and pen testing and maybe cloud pen testing, right? So that creates still a little bit of disconnect there to where they might spend 60, 70 hours preparing based on this core recommendation here, and then they go and apply for that job, and they're no more prepared for that job really than they were when they started, or they're just a little bit more prepared. They know a lot more stuff, but not things specifically related to that specific job. So what did we do to kind of get around that? Well, about 2 years ago, we really started to look into generative AI. Generative AI became a thing that was accessible to everyone. Now, I've been involved in AI research for, since 2016, right? Like worked on some big projects, some government stuff using AI to do a lot of different things. So I'm not new to the field, but I was new to applying it to learning about 2 or 3 years ago when we started to think about that. And what we came up with is let's use GenAI to come up with a way to take what it is a person's really targeting. So what we did is I took this job description right off ZipRecruiter here, and I'm just going to copy and paste that. And in Skills Now, we have this navigator, the training navigator. And what it does is it allows you to take any job description, put that in as your criteria, right? Now we submit that, and it's going to use GenAI. And keep in mind, our entire framework of our platform is got the NIST framework, NICE framework behind it. So all of our courses and labs and things are mapped to NIST NICE. And what happens is it's using a combination of that, the metadata about each one of our assets, including the courses, the descriptions of the courses, those types of things. And it's using GenAI to match that up with that job description. So let me give you a scenario. One pen testing job might require you to have a lot of Python experience. Another might not mention Python at all. So they sound similar, but they're very different in the specifics that that company that's hiring wants you to know. Okay, some pen testing job applications or job descriptions might lean heavy towards cloud, and others may not mention cloud at all, right? They may want you to just be more of a traditional pen tester. Those are two very different preparation paths for someone coming into the industry. So what this did for us is it used that GenAI process. We're using AWS Bedrock and different models, behind that, because one of the advantages of Bedrock is you get to pick and choose and use combinations of, hundreds of different models versus being stuck with one. So we used the right models to get this back at an efficient and cost-effective way for us. But what it did is it went in our platform of, many thousands, over 1,500 courses and assets, and it created a custom learning recommendation for this individual that's looking to do this job based on this job description. The key difference there is it's not a generic job role, which is what we looked at before. It's a very specific, very granular mapping to this actual job description, right? The stuff that's required in there to do this job, that's what this learning plan is based on. And as you can see, it goes into things, like mobile forensics and, the certified expert penetration tester, mainly because some of the things that they specified in there requires you to do expert level pen testing stuff. Even if it's an entry level job or they advertise it as an entry level job, what we've learned in the industry is sometimes they're asking you to do things that are not really entry level. And instead of us trying to change the whole HR and hiring world to say, you need to completely change the way you do job descriptions, we created a tool and an innovation to meet them in the middle, to where whatever the way you word your job descriptions, we don't care because we can bring it right in. For example, one of the things we can do is I just showed you a job description, but we can also come in and do this based on other things. So watch what we do here. So I'm going to go back, and instead of pasting a job description, I'm just going to pretend like I took a senior pen tester's day-to-day task list. Let's just say scan the network with Nmap. Let's do scan all, not scam, scan all web apps with VERP. Check found vulnerabilities. For exploitability with Metasploit. Use IDA Pro to reverse engineer malware found in the last week. And then let's just do one other task. Let's just do something like, check suspect traffic with Wireshark, right? So that could be like a daily task list for a pen tester, security engineer, whatever you want. So we can take those things, and for those of you that are hiring and learning development people that are really in charge of LD and HR, this is a really useful tool for you, because you can take what your teams or what your company's day-to-day tasks are, and you can create the learning plan based on that. And even on the back end, lean into our verification system that we're building out now to even verify that the people can do those things that's in that list or in that job description. So as I just gave you here, we just put in a list of tasks. And even with just that, it still created this detailed learning plan related to the things that are in these little task lists that we created here. And this is really where, team leaders, for example, can really take advantage of this, because maybe you don't want to sit down and try to write out a fancy job description to describe what you need somebody to be able to do. You maybe just want to say, here are the things that I need right now. And here's a learning plan to teach that person how to do these things. This could be a new person that you're trying to hire, or it could be a person internally that you're trying to upskill into doing some of these things. Now you've got the whole platform. You've got the learning path that best represents those things that you want them to learn how to do. And even things like some of the data science stuff for cybersecurity, that's included, because now we know, and we've put our bias in there, that if someone's entering into doing anything that's advanced in pen testing, SOC analyst work, you need to have some data science, machine learning, AI kind of hands-on experience so that you understand the concepts of how the AI is working. So this is how the Navigator works, and this is why we think it's such a groundbreaking innovation, because it takes all of the guesswork out of doing things like this as far as creating these training plans. Now, we have actually in the past, up until now, we had people internally that would spend, 40 hours a week, basically just taking these requests from enterprise customers that say, here's all the things we need them to know how to do. Infosec, you and your subject matter experts, you go create a custom learning path for us, or a custom learning plan for us to match these objectives. Now, using this tool, you can do it yourself. We can still do it for you, but we're going to use this tool, because building out this, our internal subject matter experts obviously were very instrumental in sitting on the back end, including myself, making sure that as we tested this thing and as we rolled it out and as we developed it, that the results that were coming out of it stood the test, passed our own smell test of if we'd done it manually. As a matter of fact, we did some exercises where we did it manually side by side, the tool, till we got to a point that we were comfortable with the results that were consistently coming out. And that was kind of the process behind it. All right, so that is the Navigator. Now, some of, using the tool, and the reason that's valuable is once you've gotten in there, once you've gotten that mapping, you can do things like go back and forth between watching a video, doing an assessment, and doing a lab. For example, I'm just going to do cyber incident response, or actually cyber threat hunting. And I'm going to go over here because we can actually filter. If you want to watch videos, you can watch videos. If you want to do hands-on, you can choose to do labs. Me personally, and I think a lot of people are this way, I learn in combination. If I'm in the mood to watch somebody talk to me and demonstrate things to me, then I'm in that mood. But if I'm in the mood to dive in with my hands and do things myself, I'm in that mood. Sometimes I want more of one or the other, and we give you the flexibility to do that, as your brain or as your mental self feels like you're comfortable with or what you want to do at that time. So I'm going to sort this by typing because I want to do some hands-on. So I'm going to go to the filter here, and the type I'm going to pick is cyber range, because in skills, we have many different kinds of assets. There are boot camps. So you could literally sign up for a live boot camp. Let's say you wanted to just go and learn cyber threat hunting from an actual live instructor for 8 hours a day. You could sign up for a boot camp right here in skills. And we're like in the top in the industry, one of the top 2 or 3 for providing boot camps. Like nobody beats us at the boot camp experience and the learning outcomes that come with that. That's just one click away if you want to sign up for that. But also we have certification paths. So if your focus is, I want to get some upskilling, but I'm deadly focused on passing the certification exam, you can pick that. And then the path that you get, or the paths that you get, are more focused on success on the exam, more so than deep skills development. Okay. If you just want to learn, there's a course. If you want to just go through practice exams, you can do that. But we're going to go to cyber range. All right. Now, you do need to know what a project is and what a role is and what skill paths are. So essentially, a project is where you actually download or go into one of our cyber ranges and have to do something to prove that you've completed a task, right? It's not just going through a guided lab. It's downloading an assignment, figuring out how to complete it yourself. A role is just where you get a learning path that's based on a role. We showed you that in the beginning. And then we have a skill path, which is just a combination of different assets that you see listed here to get to a specific learning outcome. So a skills path could have videos in it. It could have assessments, practice exams, cyber range exercises, and projects. All of those things could exist in an actual skills learning path. And then, of course, we have the rank assessments, where you take these assessments to see where you are so that you can compare that, take it again when you finish a learning path to kind of see what your progress is. So that's the makeup of the different types of assets that you get access to. But let's dive into cyber ranges here for just a minute. And like I said, I want to do just cyber threat hunting, cyber range, so I'm going to go into that. And now we can see the different types of hands-on exercises in there. So for example, I'm going to go to the cyber threat hunting, hunting with PowerShell. Now I wrote all of these labs, so that's why I'm cheating and leaning towards the ones that I know everything about how it works. But in this particular lab environment, what you see here is it starts up. All right, you can see the machine started up. You have a Windows VM in here. You also have a Linux one as well. But basically what it has you do is it has you learn how to use PowerShell to parse your event logs in Windows to look for those micro indicators of compromise, right? It's not always the big indicators. Sometimes it's a little salient things that nobody else would pay attention to. And in this particular lab, you learn how to use PowerShell in Windows on Windows command line to hunt through those event logs, which Windows event logs can be massive. So searching through them can be a daunting task. But one of the things that I want to show you about the environment, about the way that this works, is when you do your exercises here, you don't have to, you're not kind of like left alone, right? So for example, this first step here has us run this nmap command on the Windows command line. Some of you are on the Linux command line. Some of you may not know how to get that up, right? So if I go to Kali, which is what it's telling us here, it says open a terminal and then run this nmap command. Now, if you've been on the Linux command line before, you would know how to go and open a terminal. But maybe you're an absolute beginner and you don't know how to get from here to how do I go over here and open a terminal. Well, for that, every step has a video walkthrough. So if you don't know where to go, you can click on video walkthrough. There's an SME walking through the steps of doing that step, right? This way you will never be lost or never get hung up on the step. So I didn't let the video finish because I'm going to demonstrate it. But now we just come in, and I'm just going to make this a little bigger for you. Make sure everybody can see it. And I'm going to run this nmap command that it tells us. So we run it. And we're basically scanning a host name Windows. The reason we don't have to enter an IP address because you've got the DNS set up to do a reverse lookup or to do a lookup for the host name Windows, and it finds the IP and then scans it, right? So that's why you don't have to know like an IP. So when it finishes, you can see we got almost identical output to what's in the screenshot here. So you know you got it right. And then you'll know you got it right because you get this green check mark that says everything's a go, you did the command right, and you got the right output. So now once you get that green check mark, the button to move on to the next step highlights and you can move on to step 2. And so forth and so on. And this is how you work through the entire lab. Like that's what the experience looks like. You go through, you do a step, you complete that step, then you move on to the next step, and you get explanations as to what you're doing and why what you're doing actually works as well. What you do here is you go on to load an exploit, you exploit the Windows machine, you do some stuff, and then we go into Windows, like clicking back over to the Windows VM here, and we open PowerShell and we search through the event logs to look for evidence of the sneaky things that we did with the hack in the first part, right? So that is a different type of learning and a different level of learning. If you get hung up or you're like, okay, I did this, but I want to get deeper into the concepts, or I want to understand the theory more behind it, then you can jump out of the labs, you can go back, and then you can go and watch some cyber threat hunting videos. Everything that you see in the lab that you're doing, there is a video of an instructor somewhere in the path demonstrating that for you, okay? So if I were to go, for example, back to search, and I did cyber threat hunting again, remember we can filter. So I can come over here and say, now I'm only interested in courses. Now you can see all the videos that are related to cyber threat hunting, right? So for example, if I went to this one, you know, I could actually watch a video of someone doing hunting threats, you know, with whatever that case may be. And in this particular one, I believe it's me, and we might be having some internet issues. Oh, so yeah, this is actually me lecturing on hunting host-based threats, but towards the end, I'll actually demo it. So if you wanted to like jump from the hands-on lab and get into the theory, you could very easily do that by simply, you know, jumping over to a video session like this, because it's all ties together. For example, if you were to go back and in your search, if you picked type learning path or skill path, then you would get a combination of the videos and the cyber range and the other assets like the projects, right? So it's all tied together if you want to get the entire experience. So that is the best way to go about using this if you want to go in and manually kind of piece together the things that you want. And for any particular course, a piece of the course, you can go to it and you can say add the custom learning path by clicking these little dots over here. And then you can create your own learning path, right? Your own custom learning path. So that allows you to kind of set yourself up to where you can, you know, make it what you want it to be. Like a lot of times I've got probably 50 or so custom learning paths in my account that I've just picked other authors' content that I really like. I didn't have time to go through all of it right then, but I'll create learning paths for that topic and just add stuff as I find it that I find interesting or things that I might find useful in the future. And I encourage everybody that uses the platform to do the same thing because you get a lot out of that. So that's really what I wanted to do, is just kind of give you a walkthrough of not only the Navigator, how we're using Gen AI with that, but also show you some other ways that we're using Gen AI in development to give you like a peek into the future without giving away too many secrets here.
Awesome. Thank you, Keytron. I'm very excited for all of this. Just we're a little over time, so just one question I want to make sure got put out there before we wrap it up is the Skills Navigator currently, are there future iterations of it? What do you see the future of Skills Navigator specifically being?
Yes, we will. We very much will be pumping updates in. We'll be even using Gen AI for some of that, right? Like the latest attacks, the latest exploits. We'll be pumping that stuff in near real time in the very near future.
Awesome. We do have another question. How will you keep up the pace with changes in the industry in terms of skill that are constantly changing? How is this going to keep up with that?
So we will definitely be using some Gen AI to help facilitate that, because when we say how the industry is changing, that's a very ambiguous thing that we say. But when we look at the core of what's changing at the core, you know, the things that I teach people to do as a pen tester, the things that I taught them 5 years ago, a lot of that stuff is still relevant today, right? There might be 10 to 15% of it that's changed, that are new things that need to be added, but a lot of the core fundamental stuff has stayed the same. So really the trick there is balancing that out, making sure you keep the right core, but just adding on the new stuff or reinventing your training process for the new stuff that comes in. And I think we're very good at that, flexing that muscle.
I wanted to thank you again, Keytron, for demoing. And if you'd like to explore the feature yourself, you can create an Infosec Skills account for free, or you can get your own personalized demo with one of our excellent sales reps. Thanks so much, everybody.